Well, hello and welcome to Digital Influence. I'm Dallas McMillan, and today I'm really excited to be speaking to Jeremy Britton. Now, Jeremy is someone I've known online for a couple of years, and we've never met in person, but we've tried to once. Jeremy is now based in the beautiful Bali, and we did try to meet up in Bali one time. I'll have to make it back again. He has an amazing history. I'll let you tell him about. He was a financial planner and has had multiple businesses, but has a really entrepreneurial take on things. Looking forward to sharing his story and some of his insights about how you can connect with your customers better, do things differently to make a big difference, and live the lifestyle you want on the back of making that impact in your clients' lives. So I'll hand over and say hi to Jeremy. Thanks again for coming on board.
Thanks, Dallas. Interrupting my day down at the beach, but that's fine, mate. Lovely talking to you again.
Yeah, what a tough gig. So we can hear some tropical music straining through. That must be one of the occupational hazards of living in tropical paradise.
Yes, it's called the gamelan. There's always this little gong xylophone music going in the background in Bali, whether you're going for a $6 massage or whether you're going for a $2 beer. So, or whether you're just sitting in the internet cafe by the beach. It's always playing. It's very relaxing, very mellow, and quite repetitive.
Yes. Well, Jeremy's just been making me feel really unhappy with my internet speeds. He's telling me he's getting 17 megabits per second up and down there. So it puts Australia to shame. Time for us to do something about that.
Yeah, they don't have occupational health and safety here, mate. So when they decided they were going to put in fibre optics right across the island, they didn't do any environmental studies of how that's going to affect the green tree frogs. They just ripped up the streets and they just did it. So, yeah, things get done very quickly over here. A few of the environmentalists would freak out when they see new buildings going up or the fibre optics going in. But by and large, it has been very, very good for the island.
Yeah, incredible. So it's a real lifestyle destination there, and I've enjoyed hearing about your journey. Can you tell us a bit about the potted version of who Jeremy Britton is and how you came to end in Bali?
The story of my life and the story of Bali, that's a big story, mate. Very, very quickly, I'll see if I can sort of try and do this in 90 seconds. I was brought up in traditional sort of schooling background. Both my parents were school teachers. I went to school. I was taught by employees how to be an employee, and then went off to university. And whilst I was at university, I actually met someone who I refer to as my rich dad. And Kiyosaki can sue me. I don't care. The guy's bankrupt now anyway. But this guy was actually making a lot more money than me. He was making a lot more money than my parents, and he was happy. And he was an honest, nice kind of guy. And that sort of threw my frame of reference out. Like, how can you be rich and happy? How can you be rich and not be like the guys on TV who are drug dealers and mafia and that sort of stuff? So I pulled out of university when I was 19 and went to work for this bloke. I started my own business under his business. And over the next 20 years, I started 5 financial planning businesses and 7 retail businesses, and just learned as I went. Found mentors, found people who were smarter than me, and learned from them, because you're not going to learn how to run a business and how to have freedom from people who are employees, from people who are school teachers or whatever. So yeah, over the next 20 years, I worked very, very hard. And when I was in financial planning, if you work hard, you can make a lot of money. And slowly but surely, I figured out that being wealthy wasn't actually all about the money. So when I was financial planning, I was working 70 hours a week. I was making high 6-figure income and spending it like crazy, having a whale of a time, but I was never at home. And I was never able to eat a decent meal because I was always sort of rushing from one appointment to the other. So I sort of lived on fast food, alcohol, cigarettes to keep me sort of pepped up and then calmed down. And at the age of 33, I had a heart attack, and that was closely followed by a divorce. So I sort of looked and went, okay, look, I've made scad loads of money for myself, boatloads of money for my clients, but my health is gone and my relationship is gone. And that's when I sort of woke up and went, okay, wealth is actually money and relationships and health and happiness and spirituality. So closed down the financial planning business, changed towns, moved to the beach, and decided I was going to start another business where I was only going to work 24 hours a week. I only wanted to work while my kids were at school, knock off at 3 o'clock and take the kids to the beach every afternoon. So that's when I started the 24-hour wealth coach, because I was working 24 hours a week instead of 70 hours a week. And I figured with some tight budgeting, I could actually, if I'm working 1/3 the hours and I'm on 1/3 the income, I've just got to budget really well. But the most amazing thing happens. When I slashed my working hours by 66%, my income actually stayed the same.
Wow.
And it was really, really fascinating, because when I was rushing around in this thing of like, I've got to get a new client, got to get a new client, got to get a new client all the time, and seeing people at 8 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning, because that's the only time they had free. All of a sudden, when I just said, okay, I'm working from 9 till 3, that's the only time you can see me, the traditional employees who are working 70 hours a week like I was doing, they didn't have time to see me. But when I'd go to the beach at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there'd be a business owner, there'd be a high net worth individual, there'd be the CEO of some corporation at the gym at 9 o'clock in the morning, because he didn't have to be in the office at 9 o'clock.
Mm.
So I started to deal with higher net worth individuals, and also people were attracted to me because I was calm, because I was happy, I wasn't stressed out, I was spending time with my kids. And I sort of equate it to Dallas. In the old days, I was running around with 2 butterfly nets and trying to catch the butterflies all the time. But when I sat back and I made this beautiful garden, I work 24 hours a week. I spend time with my kids. I don't work nights or weekends. And all of a sudden, I built this beautiful garden, and other people, the butterflies wanted to come and settle in that garden.
Yeah,
People
wow.
would look at me, they'd look at my smile, they'd look at my health, they'd look at my situation and say, I want what he's got. I want to be relaxed and happy, as well as having a little bit of cash. So how'd I do? Is that 90 seconds?
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it pretty much sums it all up, so we can wrap up now. No, that's great. And it really is a nice blend of both that business strategy and how our intention sets the outcome, but also that when we make space, things can happen. And really, that's exactly what's happened to you. People have filled the gaps that you created, and most of us are too busy for the good opportunities to come along. I'm interested also how effectively you moved from being in a kind of worker bee environment where you're surrounded by other wage earners working hard to survive and stressed out about it, and you've changed your environment and changed your mindset, and just as a result, you're surrounded by more people like that, and you're in a place to pick up the opportunities.
It was interesting, because when I was working in financial planning, most of my friends were financial planners, stockbrokers, mortgage brokers, lawyers, tax accountants, all of these left-brain analytical guys who are mostly very stressed out. And a lot of them were overweight, a lot of them were going bald, some of them were having heart attacks like myself, some of them were developing cancer, some of them were going through divorce. And even though we had all the money in the world, we were mostly miserable as a crew. And occasionally, as I'm sitting in my office down by the beach and watching people go past, you'd see the hippies go past, the guys in the sarongs and the dreadlocks and that sort of stuff. And they always looked really, really happy. And I go, these guys got bare feet, they're unwashed, they got no money, but they always look so happy. I've got to go and actually meet one of these guys and find out what's going on. So I did actually. I sold my financial planning business, got right out of the office. And I spent the next couple of years hanging around with hippies, lamas, shaman, did the whole eat, pray, love thing, and meeting these guys and finding out what they knew. So I studied hypnotherapy. I got a diploma in financial planning. I've also got a diploma in hypnotherapy. I studied meditation under a Tibetan Lama, and became one of my best friends. This guy who took a vow of poverty and chastity and literally owned nothing but his robe and his little begging bowl. So very, very interesting person for me to hang around with, and I was an interesting friend for him to have as well. So I discovered all of these tools, all these right-minded, I guess, happiness tools. And that was for my own benefit. I wanted to learn all this stuff. So how could I be happy and still be able to afford rent and shoes? And when I learned all this stuff, then I sort of felt compelled to go and share it with my other mates who were the stockbrokers and accountants and financial planners. Oh, I've just learned how to be happy. You don't need to have $50,000 a month in expenditure to be happy. You can actually do it. You can do meditation. You can do this. You can do that. So I was teaching this stuff to the other guys. Meanwhile, I've still got all my analytical skills that I've learned from them anyway, all my business skills and my money-making skills. And so then I went back to the hippies and said, hey, would you guys actually like to learn how to make money? And some of them like, oh, yeah, money's evil and that sort of stuff. And I'm like, well, a chainsaw's evil if it's in the hands of Leatherface. And a chainsaw's good if it's in the hands of someone who's cutting down a tree for the right reason. And money's not good or not bad. It's just what you do with it, really. And I had some very interesting discussions with these hippies, like changing their mindset as well as changing my own mindset about what wealth really is, about what money really is and what it can do for you. And, of course, the health and the happiness and the spirituality. So the guy who took the vow of poverty and chastity and that sort of stuff for 7 years, we had some big fights. We had some interesting discussions. We had a period of time where we didn't talk to each other for a couple of months because we were both sort of butting heads. But then I continued with my meditation, continued to deal with my own issues and my own hot buttons. And eventually he came round, and he'd had a huge following on Facebook because he's a very, very spiritual guy, but hadn't monetized it. And when you've got 800,000 followers and you're not making a quid out of them, you're not selling meditation cushions, you're not selling sarongs or beads or something like that, saying, look, just show them what you got. And if they choose to buy it, that's up to them. You don't have to market, you don't have to push. And eventually this guy built a huge, huge business and then was able to travel around the world and do some amazing stuff. He broke his vow of poverty, he broke his vow of chastity, found an amazing woman, and yeah, different guy. But again, a balance. You know, you got
This sounds like the monk who bought the Ferrari. Have you read that book?
Exactly. Robin Sharma. So this was a monk who actually sold his Ferrari. He got rid of his business. He had a business many years previously and gave everything away and took the vow of poverty and chastity. And then 7 years later came back around and went, you know what? I can actually have happiness and I can have a little bit of cash and I can have sex as well as being a nice guy. So it's all possible.
Well, that's a hell of a 7-year itch. You better look out next 7 years when it comes around.
Yeah, well, hey, who knows? Who knows? Well,
terrific.
I've gone through similar stuff myself, giving away a lot of stuff. I mean, moving to Bali, we had when I was first financial planning, I had a 7-bedroom mansion with gates that opened up onto a soccer field and cricket pitches and that sort of stuff. I had 4 cars and a whole box and dice. And then shut everything down, as I said, because I deliberately slashed my income or slashed my working hours, thinking it was going to cut my income. So I got rid of that house, bought a 4-bedroom house on the beach, and the income stayed high. And then over time, you accumulate a lot of stuff. And 12 months ago, 13 months ago, I was in a 5-bedroom house on the beach, and again, all the stuff. You got the jacuzzi out the back, and you got the barbecue, and you got the canoe and the trampoline, and all the stuff that goes in a 4-bedroom house. And then we made the decision and basically, again, gave everything away, gave the cars away, gave all the furniture away. And my wife and myself will get 4 travel bags and came to Bali with 4 travel bags 13 months ago. And so now we own nothing. You know, we really own nothing but a few saucepans and the clothes on our back. And living this kind of frictionless lifestyle where you can just say, hey, I want to be in Singapore for 6 months, or I want to be in Australia for 6 months, or I want to be Thailand or Vietnam, Cambodia, or wherever, wherever the breeze takes me.
Now, I'm curious about the people you meet who share that philosophy. Do you find there's a generational perspective on that? You know, I think the younger people are changing their expectations of what's available for work, but I know a lot of people my age and older who are also kind of rethinking life and prioritizing travel or that great adventure they never had. What do you notice when you're meeting people?
I think we're definitely out of the 1980s, where the Wall Street greed is good and capitalism for the sake of capitalism. And a lot of people, whether they've gone through, a relationship breakdown, whether they've gone through a health breakdown, something actually happens to them that gets them off the treadmill, and they just say, hey, what am I actually working for? I'm working to make myself rich so I can buy all these toys, and it's not making me happy. Or I'm working for my boss to make sure the boss has all these toys, and I'm not happy. So I'm finding it's all over. Like some of my best friends over here are in their 60s and 70s, and they've moved to Bali for lifestyle reasons and to simplify things. And as I say, you don't need a lot of money to live in a third world country. You can get super fast broadband for $5 a month. You can get a massage for an hour for $6. A beer is $2 if you want to have a beer. A pack of cigarettes is $2 if you want to have a pack of cigarettes. But food is very cheap. Lots of things are very cheap. You just can't drink the water. But then it's 20 litres of water is $1.40. So, but there's backpackers who are doing that, who are like, 17, 18, 19, up to 30. And they just arrive here again with their travel bag or their backpack. And there's guys in their 60s and 70s who are doing it as well. So it's a huge mix. It's a huge mix. I think that the capitalism model has really evolved from where it was 20 or 30 years ago. And people are just starting to wake up and say, what's important is not having a boatload of toys. What's important is having experiences, really rich experiences, rather than a really rich bank account. You want to run with the bulls, you want to ride a jet ski, you want to do stand-up paddleboard yoga and this sort of stuff. I've got one of my friends who's probably 35, 38 years old, and he owns nothing. Doesn't have a car, doesn't have a house, doesn't have a whatever. But in the last couple of years, he's been to Uganda, he's been to Egypt, he's been to India, he's been to all of these places because he wanted to see all of the sights. He wanted to run around with the gorillas and gorillas in the mist, and wanted to go and see the Taj Mahal. And so for me, I mean, he has an incredibly rich life, absolutely incredibly rich life. And you can sit down and talk to this guy for hours, whereas someone who just goes to work for 60 hours a week and then goes home and goes fishing on the weekends, really they've got a very, very narrow field of what they can talk about. So I like learning from other people, guys who have meditated in caves for years, or guys who have had amazing experiences in business or in life. You're going to learn a lot from them.
Great. I was just speaking to a friend today who is starting a new business, and things are a bit slower than he'd like, and he's decided to head off and spend some time at the beach shack. So he's moving out of his home, and in many ways, there's times in your life when that's easier to do. So in his case, he's got a young family, whereas I know myself with older children who are in school, the options reduce, and I sort of regret having not travelled a bit more. I spent 15 years in the one practice straight out of uni, and it was fantastic, and I got great at what I did, but I could feel myself reaching the point where I thought, if I don't change soon, I'll be here in 30 years' time, and I'll be the one saying, that's the way we've always done it. No, you can't try something new. While I learned a lot, just the rigidity that comes with lack of variety really concerned me. So that's one of the reasons I made a shift in my business. Was there a trigger that made you think, look, that's it, I'm going to change? Was it meeting someone, or was it an adverse event? You shared the heart attack, but was there a sort of tipping point when you really realised you had to make the change?
I mean, the heart attack obviously just made me want to cut back on the working hours, because after the heart attack, the doctor said to me, unless you change your lifestyle, you're going to have another heart attack in 12 months' time, and it will be fatal. And my kids were only young. Like, my big two were at school, my youngest one hadn't started school yet. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to be dead at my desk unless I change something. I said to the doctor, what should I change? What should I change? He said, it's not up for me to decide what you should change, but you got to change something. So I went, okay, what if I change everything? So cut out the alcohol, cut out the cigarettes, stop drinking 10 cups of coffee a day, gave up red meat, gave up dairy, went on a health kick, moved towns, changed the business, changed my working hours. Like, what else can I change? What else can I change? And I thought, if I change everything, then everything's going to change. But as far as working in Australia, I mean, I had a great lifestyle in Australia. Had a house opposite the beach, so 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, I'd wake up, walk down to the beach, I'd watch the sunrise, take a picture of the sunrise, put it on Facebook, have my meditation, and then go back and start my day. And I just meet clients on Skype. I didn't have any clients coming around to my office. Even the ones who were local, who lived like 2 blocks away, I'd put them on Skype. And so I'd have this very relaxed lifestyle, and the more relaxed I was and the more happy I was, the more clients want to deal with me. So, I mean, even in Australia or in the US, if you can go and get a coffee for $3 and the person is grumpy and rude, and next door there's someone selling a coffee for $5 who's got a big smile on their face, 9 times out of 10, you're going to go and buy the $5 coffee, because it feels good to deal with someone who's happy. It feels good to deal with someone who's really enjoying what they do. And this is why when I'm coaching clients, I say, okay, whatever business you're in, whatever job you're in, what the hell do you like to do for fun? Like, what can you not do because you just love it so much? And they say, oh, I like to take photographs, or I like to work with animals, or I like to do whatever. So, okay, whatever you like to do on the weekends, whatever you do for fun, there's someone out there who's getting paid to do that. there is, you know, like subcontract photographers and freelance writers and this sort of stuff. And there's people who walk dogs on the weekends and that sort of stuff. So do that. And even though you think, you know, walking dogs on the weekend isn't going to pay you as much as your 9-to-5 job, do it with all your heart and soul and love it and leverage it. And you'll find that you'll actually make more money. You'll have more clients. You'll be happier. The clients will be happier.
Great, great. And I'm curious, so how do you work with clients now, Jeremy? Are you still pretty active, and do you use Skype predominantly? What's your client interaction like these days?
Yeah, I've set up my calendar, and this is something I started a few years ago. Again, looking at only working a few hours a week. So, excuse me. I've just lost your video feed, mate. Oh, there we go. What I've done with my calendar is I work Monday, Tuesday. I take Wednesday off, and my wife has a business as well, and she takes Wednesday off. So we have Wednesday weekend together, and then we see clients on Thursday and Friday, and then again have the whole weekend off. So just work 2 days, day off, work 2 days, have a couple of days off. And It's very, very cruisy. It's very lifestyle orientated. And if there's clients who say, look, I can only ever meet you on Wednesday, I say, well, tough luck. You're going to have to deal with someone else, you know, because that's just not what I do. You know, Pizza Hut doesn't sell hamburgers, so that's okay. And I put my times available in my Google Calendar, and whether I've got clients I've got Ireland this afternoon, US this morning, and whatever time it is in their time zone, they can actually click on my time zone. So I think the girl that I spoke to this morning, it was like 9 o'clock my time. It was 10 p.m. her time the night before. And similar with the guy in Ireland, there's a time difference. But the clients just decide, look, do you want to see me at 5 a.m. in the morning your time, or would you rather chat to me at 10 p.m. at night your time? You know, and of course, being in Bali, I'm on Perth time, so it's very, very easy to chat to clients in Australia. US is about 12 hours difference, so that's the biggest difference we got. And so, okay, if you're an early riser and you like to get up and watch the sunrise, 5 a.m. your time is 4 p.m. my time. So we can chat then. Otherwise, it's, you know, if they're in Africa or China or whatever else, it might happen to be late at night their time rather than early morning.
For sure. Now, this sounds like a dream lifestyle for so many people. What are the essential bits or the hurdles that you need in order to get from, you know, stuck in the 9-to-5 business where you wish you could travel and being able to decide to be location independent? What were the big stepping stones for you? You know, I'm sure there's lots of things that we see would be obstacles that are bigger than we think, or less than we think. What was the issue for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little issues, and even though people say it's a big issue for me, it's a big issue for me. Like say for yourself, like you've got kids at school, but it really just is a mindset. Like you've just got to change the mindset first, and then the strategy becomes easy. So if you're a level 2 person and you encounter a level 3 problem, you go, I can't handle this. You know, I just can't do this without help. But if you work on yourself, you know, whether it's prayer, meditation, hypnotherapy, coaching, whatever it happens to be, you become a level 5, level 6 person. A level 3 problem, you step over it like that. So one of the instrumental things for us coming to Bali was, you know, we've been coming here every year or two on holidays. We usually stay for a month, but we're staying in a resort and we're just doing all the touristy things and just enjoying the lifestyle. We got friends who live here, and friends from Australia and America who live here, and they've been living here for years. And they say, oh, come over here and live and work in Bali. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. I say, yeah, I love it. Love the lifestyle, love the people, you know, fantastic culture, but the internet's not good enough and the water's not good enough and this is not good enough and the infrastructure and the roads and that sort of stuff. And these guys kept saying, look, come back, it's gotten better. So 2014, it was February 2014, when we decided to come over for a month, but instead of staying in the resort, we're actually going to look around and where do we find a house? Where do we buy a washing machine? You know, where do we get a TV set from? Do we import our furniture from Australia, or is it cheaper to get furniture here? So we decided to live here for a month. And as you say, the internet is ridiculously fast now. And yes, you can't drink the water out of the tap, but you can buy 20 litres of water very, very easily, and they deliver it to your house for 20 cents. And these guys, these friends of ours, actually have young kids. And in Bali, there's American schools, there's UK schools, there's Australian schools, and there's international schools. So whether you want your kids to follow the HSC program, whether you want your kids to do A-levels or O-levels or whatever it is, you can actually put the kids at school here, and the school fees are significantly cheaper than what they are in the West. So all of those obstacles that I thought were so big were really actually small, and I had to change my mindset. Again, it's similar to when I decided instead of working 11-hour days, I'm going to work 6-hour days, and then go, oh my God, how do I find the clients? Well, the clients found me. Because if you go to the gym at 7 in the morning, you're going to find all the people at the gym. It's very, very crowded at 7 in the morning. All the workers are there. They go at 7, they have their workout, they go home, have a shower, they go to their 9-to-5 job. And it's very crowded. But if you go to the gym at 10:15 in the morning, there's like 4 guys in the gym. And these are the guys who don't need to be at work because they're the CEOs, they're the executives, they're the business owners who are actually leveraging, and they're not doing all the work themselves. And most people, they start a business, whether you're a mechanic or whether you're a chippy or whether you're a landscape gardener or whatever you are, you go, I'm going to start a business doing this, and then you end up doing everything. You do the bookwork, or you encourage your wife to do the bookwork, and you're doing everything all the time. But when you can actually leverage and get a few people working for you or with you, then you say, okay, I can take some time off now. And the lifestyle becomes more important than the money.
Fantastic. Now, it sounds like you're on commission from the Bali Yard Tourism and Immigration Department. But tell us a bit about your business, Jeremy. What do you do for people, and what, how do you help clients now?
Well, as I said, like I sold my financial planning business in 2010, got rid of all my businesses back then. And people kept phoning me up. I was retired. It was the second time I'd retired in my life. First time I retired, I lasted 90 days. I got very, very bored, and I wrote a book that went on to become a bestseller, basically saying all financial planners are idiots. Here's how you can do your own stuff yourself. You don't need a financial planner. And that book became very, very famous and got me speaking on stages and that sort of stuff, and brought me out of retirement. I started another business off the back end of that, and then sold that business. But people were ringing me up afterwards, and they weren't saying, should I buy BHP shares or should I buy a property? Because that's what the new guy was dealing with that. People were ringing me and saying, how did you sell your business? And I'm like, well, how do you sell a house? How do you sell a car? You just put an ad on the internet, eBay, here, business for sale. But again, it was so simple for me. I just didn't even think about it. But these other guys were like the mechanic who's been working in the mechanics business for 25 years, and no one's going to buy his business except a mechanic, because no one else knows how to run it except a mechanic. And if you're a mechanic, you wouldn't buy his business, you'd go and start your own. So it's really about talking to people about shifting the mindset first, and then following the strategies of delegation, elimination, automation, leverage, and saying, how can you step outside of the business and have the business running? I mean, Branson is probably an ideal person to look at. You see Richard Branson, you never see him in the office. You catch Virgin Airlines and he's not walking down the aisle handing out the peanuts or handing out the pillows. He's got other people to do that for him. He's sitting on the beach. He's got the bikini girls bringing him the pineapple juice. And all he does is just makes 5% from Virgin Airlines. He makes 5% from Virgin Music. He makes 5% from Virgin credit cards. And somebody else takes care of it for him, and they get 95% of the profit. But he's become a billionaire just by taking 5% cuts off lots of little slices of cake. So, and this, again, is what I encourage people to do, because people were ringing me and saying, how do I sell a business? Saying, well, first you've got to be able to walk away from the business. If you can't take a weekend off, then you can't take a week off. If you can't take a week off, you can't get someone else to run your business for the week. And whether you actually sell it to someone else, or whether you let someone in there run it as a manager, and you simply take a month off and have a holiday overseas and then come back, that's entirely up to you. You don't need to sell the business. But if you create a business that you can actually walk away from, and you've got trusted people in there, and you've trained them yourself, and you've got yourself right so that you can train your staff right, then you've got the ideal lifestyle. For
sure. And so that lets you focus on the parts of the work that you really want to as well. So once you don't have to work, as you've reported, you often find you do still want to work. There's certain areas that you love helping clients with, or that are particularly high value work where, it's not necessarily someone else can walk in and do it straight away. You can focus on the things that require your unique gift.
Yeah. A lot of people say, look, I can't let anyone else do my bookwork because no one does it as good as my wife. I say, well, okay, can we find someone who does it 70% as good as your wife? I say, oh, yeah, we can find someone to do that. And can we find someone who does your job 70% as good as you? Oh, yeah, we can find that. I said, cool. Now find 3 people who can do it 70% as good as you, and all of a sudden you've got 200%. Your business can be twice as big, and you can actually walk away.
Mhm.
But again, you got to get the mindset of trusting yourself that you've chosen the right people, trusting yourself that you've trained them the right way, and trusting them they're actually going to do the right thing by the business. So when you walk away, they're not stealing clients, they're not stealing money, they're not stealing stock. Because if they look after the business is going to look after them. If they look after you, then you're going to look after them. So again, it's the mindset comes well before the strategy. Strategy is easy. You know, anybody can read Richard Branson's book and go, okay, he did delegation, he did elimination, he did automation, he did leverage. How did Tim Ferriss do the 4-hour work week? You know, there's strategies there, and millions of people read the 4-hour work week, but most people didn't apply it. Otherwise, everybody in the world would be working 4 hours a week, and we wouldn't even be having this discussion. I read that book 12 times because the first time I read it, I was like, this is bullshit, right? And I read it again because I wanted it to be true. It sounded so good. I wanted it to be true. And then I read it again, 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 and something started to switch in my head and go, wow, this is possible. I can do this. It's not just possible for Tim Ferriss, it's possible for me.
Okay, I love it. I love it. So that really does point to the profound change we need to make in our mindset to shift the way we create and deliver value. You know, as you said, we've been raised in a schooling environment by hardworking people to think we have to work hard to make money and be okay. You know, in a way, there's a sense that if you aren't working hard, like you're a slacker, or that you are. So I'm just thinking of when your partner comes home from a hard day at the office. I work in a home office. My partner comes home and she's had a stressful day. I've had my own stresses too. But there's this feeling that, well, you've just been hanging around the house all day. And that's an issue. And there's a conflict there. So it's almost like I feel I need to say, oh, yeah, it's been really hard. If I said, oh, look, you know, fantastic, got up early, went for a run, did a bit of yoga, and just set up the hammock to spend a bit of time in the sun, that's not going to go down as well, even if I got as much or more done doing that. So in a way, we're all sabotaging ourselves to maintain that status quo, that life's a bit tough and we've got to work hard and we've got to be busy. So yeah, it's fascinating, and as you say, it does take repeated exposure to these ideas to sort of break our mental shackles that there is an alternative to working hard for someone else or the client. And of course, you know, we when we love something, we do work hard, but it's a joy. So I'm not saying it's necessarily always easy, but that you don't have to do things you hate to stay alive.
I mean, Steve Jobs said, you know, do what you love, because at some stage it is going to get hard. At some stage there's things going to go wrong, and you'll only persevere if you actually love it. Right? So you imagine when your kids were born, and for the first 6 months all they do is poo and throw up and cry. And if you didn't love them, you wouldn't put up with them for that 6 months. And after 6 months, they become cute. They start to smile. They start to walk and talk and actually be enjoyable. But if you didn't love the kids, then you wouldn't put up with that stuff for the first 6 months. Yes. So if you're doing a business that you absolutely love and you're seeing great outcomes for yourself and great outcomes for your clients, even on the hard days, it's still joyful. And you can still actually enjoy, even if you've had a stressful day, you can enjoy the feeling that you've created for other people. But you're right about, you know, we feel like we have to work more hours because in the employee mindset, I get paid a certain number of dollars per hour, whether it's $10 an hour or $30 an hour, $100 an hour, whatever it is. And the only way to make more money is to work more hours. And then, you know, you get more education, you get another degree, you go up a pay rate, or you get a promotion, or you get a better job. And then you start making $150 an hour, or, you know, $35 an hour, or whatever it is. So there's this brainwashing from the education system that says, okay, you have to have your bits of paper, you have to have your qualifications, and you have to work many, many hours. But that's all really good for them. And then you have a look at, okay, who didn't actually finish university? We've got people like Oprah Winfrey, Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. None of these guys actually finished university. And these are the guys who are actually living the lifestyle where these guys are billionaires and they're having a bit of a balance and they're traveling around the world and doing fun things. But there's still this brainwashing from the education system saying, hey, you need to be working hard, you need to be working more hours, you need to be educating yourself. and reading stuff out of books that's actually got little application in the real world.
Mm.
So the technology that we're using right now, I didn't learn about this at school. I'm not sure if they teach it at business school, but most of the stuff that I've learned is actually been on the job learning, and I'll connect with another business owner and I'll meet someone and say, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? And even outsourcing, and what I was saying before about people actually being able to book into my diary, so they can go onto the website and they can actually click and they can book into my diary, so they don't need to phone me or phone my secretary and say, oh, well, how's 8 a.m. on Tuesday? No, he's busy then. Oh, how about 12 noon on Thursday? There's none of that, and trying to calculate the time difference, because there's a piece of software that will actually do that all for you. And it's done in your time zone from your desktop. No one needs to phone my secretary. In fact, my wife and I haven't had a phone call in 2 years, and we're both running businesses. So if you try and phone me right now, my phone is permanently on silent. It gets diverted through to Fiji, and we've got a couple of girls in Fiji who answer our phones, and that costs, I don't know, less than $10 a day. I think it's about $3 a day or something like that. These guys, to answer our phone in real time, they've got a list of the frequently asked questions. They can answer the questions. They can book clients into the diary, or clients can book themselves into the calendar. And if there's a client's got a question that they don't know the answer to, then they'll actually send me a text message and I can phone the client. But you imagine how much better your day would go at work or in your own business if you had no emails coming in and no phone calls to interrupt you. You can actually just do what you need to do. And then at the end of the day, you can say, okay, I've got an email from my secretary saying there's 14 new emails from Dallas. 15 of them are, 13 of them are jokes, and one of them's important. So I can just read the important one, and another email from the other person saying, hey, there's 3 phone calls that you need to return, but that one can wait until tomorrow. Okay. So again, leveraging, and these days we can do it very, very easily. I mean, many years ago, you had to have a secretary sitting in your office and you had to pay them $20 an hour and they'd go and make your tea occasionally. But now you could hire someone in the Philippines or in Fiji or in Bali or wherever they happen to be, and they can be doing this work, and they'll charge you. Like I've got someone working for me now who speaks fluent Indonesian, speaks fluent English, speaks fluent Chinese, degree qualified. And when she applied for the job, she wanted $3 an hour to work for me and do my social media, handle my Facebook, read all my emails, do all these sort of things. And in the interview, I met with her, chat with her, and said, absolutely not. Like, I'm not paying you $3 an hour. No way. And she just went, I said, I must pay you $5. I must pay you at least $5 an hour. And since then, we've negotiated up to $8 an hour, because she's so qualified and so good that I felt bad about giving her this money. But she's living in an economy where $3 an hour is a lot of money. She can buy a meal for 10 cents, 20 cents. So, and the rent, is probably 20% of what you're paying. So they don't need that much. And as I say, now we've got the technology where you can hire people from all over the world. So even this morning, I'm working on my 4th book at the moment, and I don't have time to type it. When I wrote my first book, I typed it all up by hand using these 2 fingers.
Yes.
It took me 5 years, because I did the cover art, I did the photos, I did the charts, I did all the typing, all the research. It took me 5 years to get the first book out. And then I met someone who'd written 8 books in 6 years. And I'm like, how do you do that? And she said, okay, you know how to talk, plug your headphones in, you just talk, you find someone else who knows how to type. And there's people out there who can type 120 words a minute, like the court transcription experts, right? They can type faster than I can talk. So I dictated into my phone for 3 hours, uploaded the MP3 to someone else. 2 days later, back comes the manuscript, and I call someone else and say, hey, can you do some cover design for me? Because that's what you know how to do. And they sent me back 3 samples. I said, okay, get rid of number 1, combine number 2's font with number 3's picture. Done. Okay, find someone else to upload it onto Amazon for me. And so instead of a 5-year book, that book was out on Amazon within 3 months.
Great.
And my 3rd book, which I just finished this month, hasn't been launched yet. But that one was a matter of days, I think 5 or 6 days. Now I'm working on this new one, and I'm talking to people in the Philippines. I'm talking to people in Australia, researchers in Australia, typists in the Philippines, and also some researchers in the US because of the involved topic. And all of these guys are happy to work for peanuts because they're working from home, they're doing what they love, and it's also going to benefit them. So
Fantastic.
it's a lot
And
of fun.
so what's the topic of the new book?
The new one that's just been released, or the new one that's...
Yeah, tell us about the one that's just out.
So the first book, again, was learning how to be your own financial planner. It's called Who's Taking Your Money and How to Get Some of It Back. So just looking at, instead of buying shares in the mining stock that your brother-in-law told you about, just looking at where you spend your money. So if you always shop at Coles, if you always shop at Woolworths, if you always buy your electricity from the same company, then buy stock in that company. If you've got your mobile phones and your home phones with Optus as opposed to Telstra, buy shares in that company. Always look at where your money is going and then invest in those companies. So that's the crib notes of it. It's 240 pages long, but it's a big book. You learn a lot of stuff, and also about buying property and when to buy and when to sell. And the second book was all about mindset. And as you were talking about before, because the schooling system is schooling us like fish to be all the same. School, 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 school of fish. But then the true education is actually breaking out of that and bringing out what's inside. Because the word education is similar to the word seduce. It's bringing out what's inside, what's already there, and developing that. So the mindset book, as I say, took a matter of 3 months. Hot frog, cool frog is that one. So it's the analogy of putting all the frogs in the hot water. If you turn it up by 1 degree every minute over a 12-year period, like in the schooling system, no one notices. They all cook. But if you try and get an entrepreneur, if you tried to send Mark Zuckerberg to school right now, he would jump out in 2 seconds flat because he realizes it's not him.
Sure.
And the third book, which I've just finished, is actually, it's funnily enough, it's like a recipe book. When I went on my health kick after my heart attack, I did a lot of juice fasting, did 30-day juice fast, did 40-day water fasts, and created some amazing things with fruits and veggies. And so that's again, it's about 240 pages of colour pictures of all the foods that I ate and what fasting did to my body. There's before and after pictures when I lost 15 kilos in 40 days on a water fast. I went down about six inches in my waist size. My eyesight improved, my spirituality improved. Amazing things started to happen. And that's the third one, which, as I say, is coming out at the moment. The fourth one is it's a bit out there, and it's just uncovering a lot of truths that people aren't aware of. And most people in the US would actually think that the Federal Reserve Bank is a government department. Most people in the USA will think that the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, is a government department, but it's a foreign-owned corporation. And similarly, in Australia, the Reserve Bank of Australia is not owned by the government. The government doesn't put the interest rates up and down. It's an independent foreign-owned corporation who does that. And in Australia, we have the Defence Department, we have the Department of Foreign Affairs, we have the Department of Social Security, we have the Department of Immigration. We do not have a taxation department. There's the Australian Taxation Office, which is a foreign-owned corporation. It's not part of the government. And this is who's actually taking your money. And what they're doing with it, you would not believe, because you're not allowed to look into it. So again, it's a lot of truths, the things that I've discovered from working in the financial service industry for 25 years, that guys on the inside know, because, Apple pays 4% tax, IKEA pays 4% tax, Google pays 4% tax, Microsoft pays 0%, Warren Buffett pays less tax than his secretary, even though he's the second richest man in the world. Kerry Packer was the richest man in Australia and paid $30 tax. So these guys all know this stuff. They know the loopholes, they know how to get around it. And instead of giving money to the government who wastes it on trying to shoot the boat people or shoot the Syrians or invade Iraq, these guys would actually take their money and say, okay, I'm not giving it to the government. Well, because it's not the government anyway, it's a private corporation. And then they would actually start their own charitable things. Like with my wife and myself over the last 6 years, we've sponsored 180,000 children in Africa. And everybody knows what Bill Gates is doing in Africa, vaccinating kids for better or for worse, and inventing waterless toilets and things like that. And Kerry Packer was a very, very generous man. He used to meet waitresses and pay off their mortgages and things like that, because he believed in supporting the community, not supporting the Defence Department, not supporting foreign invasion, not supporting the fat politicians and their $500,000 helicopter trips. So it's all very interesting. It's all very involved. And, you can see I'm getting excited about it right now because I'm working on it at the moment. And it's a big passion of mine to actually show normal people what the billionaires do and how they do it. Whether you choose to do it or not is entirely up to you. It's like taking a motorbike into an Amish community. You know, these guys on a little horse and cart, they go 5 miles an hour and they get terrified. So I'll bring a motorbike in there and say, here's how you can actually make your business 500% bigger. Here's how you can slash your tax bill from whatever it is, 30 or 40% to zero. Here's how you can do what the billionaires do. Whether you choose to jump on the motorbike and go away, that's up to you. But at least you're going to know about it. You're not going to have any excuses. And these secrets have been kept secret for far too long by the upper echelon. The 1% has held on to these for hundreds of years, literally hundreds of years. And now it's time that the ordinary people actually go, you know what? I want to do that too. And that's okay. If we start a bit of a revolution, if everybody knew what Kerry Packer knew, then the government's going to have to rethink this sliding scale of tax. Maybe they'll just put a 15% GST on everything that you buy. And that's okay. But it's not fair to have the guys who are the working class guys paying 30 or 40% tax when the upper echelon are only paying 1%, 2 or 3%. It's not a reasonable system.
Insane and incredibly inefficient too, because effectively the people paying more tax also get a lot of rebates that are significant. If I'm a young family, then I'm paying a high level of tax on my income, but then I'm getting rebates for child support or a first home owners grant. So there's this sort, as you say, it's friction. There's lots of back and forth that presumably keeps a lot of bookkeepers and accountants in mind-numbing jobs, but isn't actually adding value. And if you were sort of designing a system to do a job, then you'd sort of cut out all that back and forth and think, well, and I've seen some really interesting things around, the universal living wage concept, where some countries have realised actually with our chronically unemployed and homeless, the cheapest way to manage them is to pay them a living wage or to put them in a house, and that reduces our healthcare costs. It reduces, criminal management. So it's certainly we've got a broken system, and the more we're aware of what's going on, the more we can look for intelligent answers. So it sounds fascinating, Jeremy. I'm really looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, I read some information yesterday about the IRS in the USA, and when they before they had income tax for 150 years, they just had this VAT or this GST type thing. So on expenditure, when they brought in the income tax to try and fund the war effort, there was less than half of 1% of people who actually had to put in a tax return. Now in the US, everybody has to put in a tax return, and it takes 6 billion hours to go through for all the accountants and all the administrators, 6 billion hours to lodge all that stuff and actually work out whether they get money back or whether they don't. But it was James Tobin who actually figured out, this is a Nobel Prize winning economist, who said instead of having this income tax all over the world, just put in 1% tax on FPOS transactions. So when you get paid, you lose 1% in tax. When you go out and buy a coffee, 1%. When you go out and buy a house, 1%. So the maximum you would ever pay is 2%, 1% coming in and 1% going out. And he demonstrated that if that was implemented right around the world, that would end world hunger. And he won the Nobel Peace Prize for economics for doing this study and figuring this out. But the system has never been implemented, never in any country. And the reason why is because there's these guys right at the top who are thinking 1% tax is too much. I don't want to pay 1% tax.
Sure.
So everybody else who's on 30 or 40 is saying, yeah, I'd love to pay 1%, but the politicians and the higher up guys won't let it come in. But there's a way around that. There's a way of learning how to do that anyway. And again, once everybody starts doing it, the government's going to have to sit back, or the IRS is going to have to sit back and say, you know what, we need to redesign the system, because once everybody knows the secret, it's not a secret anymore. We need to fix this. It's broken beyond repair.
Yeah, for sure. So, and it's particularly insulting for small business owners who are paying those high levels of tax when they're facing competition from these multinationals who come in and they might be paying a skerrick of tax somewhere, but it's in a tax haven effectively. And so it's a really uneven playing field. Someone is trying to get a new business off the ground, or keep operating a business that served the community for years, just can't compete against a Google or a Microsoft or another institution like that, which is just operating by totally separate set of rules.
Mm.
So we better move on from the tax stuff, because I think everyone will be getting their blood pressure up. We don't want to cause any heart attacks, even if it could mean people end up in Bali. We won't take the risk. But if people want to learn more about your books and what you do, Jeremy, how can they get in touch? What's the best way to find you? And do you have anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh, I've got truckloads of things I'd like to share, mate. But out of respect for time, if people want to find me, it's 24-hour wealth coach, again, because I work 24 hours a week, not 24 hours a day. So first person to ring me at 3 o'clock in the morning is going to get a poke in the eyes. That's number 2, number 4, HOUR, 24hourwealthcoach.com. You can search for 24-Hour Wealth Coach on Facebook. You can search for 24-Hour Wealth on Twitter. Search for 24-Hour Wealth Coach on YouTube. I've got about 400 videos on YouTube. Some of them, again, left brain, analytical, mathematical, business strategy, and a lot of them are meditation at the beach, meaning of life, relationship, happiness, joy, fasting, that sort of stuff as well.
Fantastic.
So, bit of a profile there, but if you want to find, people want to have a chat to me, they can book into my calendar. If they want to find the books, they can find them on Amazon, and keep in touch through the website or through Facebook.
Terrific. And I've taken advantage of that opportunity myself in the past, and it was certainly illuminating. And we'd planned to catch up in Bali, so I promise I'll get back and we'll have that beer by the beach yet. So really looking
we'll
forward
have a sunrise meditation, mate. You don't need beer.
Excellent. So, look, I'd love to talk further. We'll wrap it up here, though. And any parting words of wisdom for those of us who aren't reclining by the beach in tropical paradise? Anything you'd like us to reflect on as we go about our busy days, Jeremy?
Reflect on when you see these guys who are doing this sort of stuff, realize that they're not more intelligent than you, realize they're not more educated than you. And Tim Ferriss doesn't have 15 degrees. Richard Branson doesn't have 23 diplomas or anything like that. It's just they've figured out the mindset of saying, yes, I can do it. Now I'm going to figure out how. I mean, a great example that I love is Roger Bannister. And for thousands of years, the Greeks, the Romans, these people in the Olympics and the Colosseum, they always tried to break the 4-minute mile, and nobody ever could do it. Mm-hmm. And literally thousands of years, and we had doctors publishing books on why it was impossible because the size of the human heart compared to the chest, and it was possible for horses but not for people. And Roger Bannister came out and went, okay, you know what? It's not a 4-minute mile. It's 240 seconds. And he ran it in 243, and then he went, okay, I'm going to beat it by 1 second, I'm going to beat it by 1 second, beat it by 1 second, until he got down to 240. And then says, all I've got to do is beat it by 1 second. And he beat it by 1 second. He was the first man in recorded history to ever beat the 4-minute mile, the thing that everybody else said was impossible. And guess what? The next year, 11 more people did it. Right? And now it's incredible. If you do a 4-minute mile now, it's not even Olympic speed, right? Because what was possible before, what people thought was possible, was not possible. What people thought was impossible was actually possible. So once somebody's done it, once an idiot like me can end up in Bali and live here for 12 months and run a business over Skype, once someone like me can hire a secretary for $3 an hour on the other side of the world, then anybody can do it. You just got to meet these people and say, okay, what do you do? I mean, I met Dale Beaumont, who does Business Blueprint for Success. And he was actually had this little piece of software that was booking people into his calendar. And I was still paying someone $15 an hour to take phone calls and book them in my calendar. I went to Dale, how did you do that? And Dale told me how to do that. So I did that. And of course, then my secretary was freed up to do more important things that were actually more beneficial to the business. So it's just learning tips from other people, but being open to the possibility of, if that person can run a 4-minute mile, if that person can work 20 hours a week, if that person can become a billionaire and not actually working hard slog laying bricks or plumbing or whatever, then it's possible. I've just got to find out how. If IKEA can pay 4% tax, then it's possible. I've just got to find out how. So that's
fantastic.
Anything is possible. You just got to discover.
Fantastic. Well, they're words of wisdom to leave us with. So great talking to you. Looking forward to catching up again. And may your drinks be cold and your surf be clean in Bali.
Thank you very
much. Have a great
day,
Jeremy. Pleasure.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.